Welcome back to the Talking Sports podcast, hosted by Peter DiBiasi and John Rocco Trumpbour, right here on YouTube, Apple Podcast, and Spotify. Guys, it is another edition of the Talking Sports podcast, and we will be breaking down in this episode, and for the first time ever, we're breaking down the Premier League. The Premier League starts in about a little over a week, and we'll be breaking it down, giving you guys our standing predictions, who we think is going to win the Premier League, who we think is going to qualify for the Champions League, and all that stuff in between. This is our second ever soccer video. We did a Champions League video when the championship happened, or the Champions League championship video between Real Madrid and Liverpool. And it was fun, and you guys enjoyed that, so we appreciate that. But Jared, before we get into today's content, and I know people should be following us on social media, but not everyone always follows us on social media. But where can everyone follow us?
Yeah, guys, on social media, Instagram and Twitter, at Talking Sports PD. We do posts, we do polls, just get more interaction with our listeners. And then, of course, please, if you're watching this, subscribe to the YouTube channel.
Yes, please subscribe.
Yeah. So again, at Talking Sports PD on Instagram and Twitter.
And guys, we appreciate all the views we got in the last one with Chris Kalk. If you missed that, we broke down the craziness and the realignment of college football. So if you missed that, you want to check that out, please do. It was a great episode, and we appreciate all the support on that episode. But yeah, if you do want to subscribe, we'll appreciate it. Road to 2K is getting there faster than we ever thought, so much appreciated. But without further ado, we don't want to drag this on. We're going to be breaking down. We're going to go from 20 to 1 as we break down the Premier League standings of 2022, 2023, and then we'll each crown our Premier League champions going into the season. Jer, we're going to get the bat rolling with you as we always do. 20th in the Premier League. Who do you got?
So coming in last and getting demoted, I have Bournemouth, AFC Bournemouth. They came in second in the Championship League last year. So they have really good young talent. Dominic Solanke, he put up 29 goals last year. And then Jaden Anthony, he's only 21, 8 goals, 6 assists. And they really have no one leaving the club after this year, on whether it's a loan or they sold them. But they also have Joe Rothwell, a center midi, he's like a playmaker. He'll set other people up. He had 10 assists last year, and he's 27, so he's starting to get in his prime. But other than that, I feel like this team hasn't really 2 out of the 3 championship teams usually get demoted. And when looking at this team, I just don't see them able to get to stay in the Prem this year. I think they might get beat up a little bit. So yeah, I had to put Bournemouth at 20th and comes to last.
I'm going to agree with you there. I got Bournemouth coming in at 20. Obviously, I don't want to repeat what you're saying, but I wrote down my notes. Key player, Dominic Solanke. But you're coming up from obviously the championship. It's obviously a step up. It's the championship. Mm-hmm. And like you said, usually 2 out of 3 teams on average, or whatever the number is, gets brought back to the Championship League. And look, it's going to be a battle. And then there's obviously a path for them. They have a couple nice players, but it's not like they brought in anybody. And it's tough too, but it's not like they brought in anybody that obviously pops off the board to you. All that stuff. I wrote Joe Rothwell, Blackburn, and then Ryan Fredericks from West Ham, but they're both free additions. They didn't cost them any money. So obviously they weren't spending money, and they probably don't have the financial means to spend money. But look, they're going to be competitive. It's always tough in the Prem, but there's going to be a path for them. But at this point, AFC Bournemouth, in my opinion, like I said, just doesn't move the needle for me. It'd be interesting. It's always a cool story. It'd be very cool if 3 teams from the championship stayed, and 3 teams from the Prem, that were originally in the Prem, got demoted. But it doesn't always happen. So AFC Bournemouth, I think we both agree, at 20th, go back to the Championship League. We'll see them again in a couple years. Jared, at 19, who do you have at 19? And obviously, if you guys don't know, 18, 19, and 20, like Jared said, get relegated back to the championship. So who's another team that's getting back to the championship?
So at 19, I have Fulham. A lot of people might think this year might be their year that they stay in the Prem. They've been a team that's been flip-flopping for like 3 or 4 years now. And yeah, so they came in first in the Championship League. And Alexander Mitrovic, he just broke, I think, the goal record for the year with 43 goals in the Championship League. And you might say, wow, like this guy's going to go off next year in the Prem. And, you know, he's always been really good in the Championship League. And then when he comes to the Prem, he just stinks. He scored 3 goals in the Prem in 2020 to 21 season. And then he went to his 43 goals. So, I mean, the Prem's just a different game than the Championship League. So I just don't see him. I could see him maybe averaging like getting 12, 15 goals, which is really good. But I don't see him taking over like he did in the Championship League. And I feel like for Fulham, that's what they need out of their star player. And they lost Nico Williams and they lost, Andre Zambos was a key midi for them. And I see the guys coming in like Hayo Palina. I mean, he's a good player. Yeah. And then Andrea Piero from Man U. They're good players. I just don't see them. They spent some money, but I just don't see them. They didn't spend enough to really assert the team as much as Fulham fans probably would have liked.
Before I go to my 19th, I'm going to address the elephant in the room. We're both wearing Leicester City jerseys. We forgot to mention this, Jared, and we're both Leicester City fans. So we support Leicester City. I got Jared has a Wesley Fofana jersey on. I got a Jamie Vardy. So we're Leicester City fans. So it's something different than most people. We're not Man U, Arsenal, all that fun stuff. Just so people wondering why we're wearing Leicester City jerseys. Obviously, we're Leicester City fans. But me at 19, I'm going to disagree. I don't got Fulham at 19. And that's the fun of this. We don't always want to agree because then what's the point of the episode? I have a team that's not a former championship team from this past year, and that is Leeds at 19.
Ooh.
And I've never been high on Leeds. I think they almost got relegated last year. They finished 17th. They finished 3 points ahead of Burnley. So it wasn't like they were like really safe throughout the whole year. And they were nothing special. And the 2 reasons that I think Leeds gets relegated back to the championship and finished 19th, and the 2 reasons are 2 players. They lost Calvin Phillips to Man City, and he cost Man City $42 million. And then Rafinha to Barcelona for $49 million. So those are the 2 guys they lose. And then those are two of your best players. Like I still have a key player, Ewan Meslier, but like based off the research and all that stuff, and I probably butchered the heck out of that name, I think Calvin Phillips and Rafinha, like if Barcelona and Man City are interested in their top players, obviously they're incredible players. Those are big shoes to fill. And they brought in some nice players. They brought in Brendan Aronson from RB Salzburg, and they brought another one, Rasmus Christensen, probably butchered that name, from RB Salzburg. But I think Leeds, were basically at the point of relegation last year. You were safe by 3 points. Then you lose your 2 best players. What makes you think they stay again? I think 19 Leeds with the 2 losses. And we know American coaches, and we want to support American coaches. We're both, obviously, in the United States, we're like from New York, but we want to support American coaches. But American coaches don't have a good history in the Prem. Like they just don't have a good history, and they usually scapegoat kind of coaches. Leeds has the only American current coach in the Prem. So at 19, I got Leeds losing their 2 best players going back to the championship. JR, 18, what do we got?
So at 18, I have a team that did really well in the beginning and then just struggled at the end. And that is Southampton. My big thing with Southampton is just I don't see how they don't really get too many goals. I mean, I was looking at their player stats. I mean, James Ward-Prowse, really a high potential young midfielder. He's 26. He scored 10 goals and he was leading the team by wide margin. They had no one really scoring above 8 goals besides him. He had 10 goals, 5 assists. To me, they don't put enough points on the board to really stay in the Premier League. They did really well in the beginning of the year last year. Towards the end, you saw them struggle, and I think the struggle is going to continue at the beginning of this year. And I just don't see them making it into the Prem next year or staying in.
So just to full closure, Jared's 3 teams that he thinks are getting relegated. They're Southampton at 18, Fulham at 19, and then AC Bournemouth at 20. So my third and final team that are going to go along with Leeds and AC Bournemouth is Nottingham Forest at 18. And obviously that's Leicester's rival. And it'd be kind of cool if they stuck around for a year or two. Just to obviously it builds more of a rivalry when you play them multiple times a year. But they lose a couple players. They lose Bryce Samba, and they also lose Jaden Richardson. And they brought in a couple nice players. Tayo Anua from Union Berlin, Nico Williams from Liverpool. I've just maybe it's just because we're not supposed to like Nottingham Forest. I got nothing like egregious against them. But it's one of those another teams from the championship. And look, Jared had 2 teams from the championship, right? I'm gonna have 2 teams from the championship get relegated back. I think it's Nottingham Forest. They were in a cool, exciting story last year, but they didn't finish top 2 in their league, so they had to win that tournament and that play-in to get into the Prem. I think they just miss out on staying in the Prem for another year. And they did bring in Jesse Lingard, the Man U signing, and he had a huge potential from his career at Man U in his first couple years, because I knew people always talked about him, but I obviously never got onto the starting 11 and never was contributing enough to obviously stick around for Man U. They brought in Dean Henderson, that could be their potential goal. So they brought in some nice pieces, but I think their roster as a whole was not there yet. And I think Nottingham Forest at this point gets back to the championship and has to suffer another year. And I would love to see them just to stick around in the Prem to create a more of a consistent rivalry against Leicester, because sports are always good when you got hatred towards teams. It's always fun when there's rivalry. So I got Nottingham Forest as my third and final team. So I got Nottingham Forest, I got Leeds, and I got AFC Bournemouth heading back to the Championship League. Okay, JR, who's 17th, and who's that team that just squeaks by and avoids the dreaded going back to the championship? Who's at 17 for you?
So I have them kind of repeating the squeak by this year again. I have Leeds. They also finished last year in 17. They struggled with injury last year, and I think they just don't have much depth on the team. And I really like one of their transfers, Luis Sinistera from Feyenoord, the Ligue 1. He put up 12 goals and 7 assists last year for them. And he's only 23 years old. So I think this is a good piece to have, especially for their attack. And like you said, Brendan Aronson from Salzburg. And I really like Tyler Adams, the American from Leipzig. He's a 22-year-old defensive midi. I think they're getting young talent on this team. And I think they're building kind of a core here. Like you said, I wouldn't be surprised if they do really struggle this year. But I think they're gonna avoid relegation, and that's also because they're Premier League experience other than over the championship teams. That's why I kind of gave them the benefit of the doubt. But yeah, so I got Leeds at 17. I think they're just gonna squeak by again this year, and then they're gonna really have to make some moves if they want to go higher up in the Prem.
Obviously, 17th isn't anything to lose your mind about. You're happy because you didn't get relegated, but it's not like you got some issues still. So for me, it's 17. And finally, because Fulham has been that type of team that has gone back and forth. And man, if you're a fan of that team, you get a little taste of the Prem, and then we're back. And then we win the championship, and then we're back. And then just going back and forth. This is the year they stay. They're 17th. They barely stay. They squeak ahead of Nottingham Forest. Bringing in Andreas Pereira from Man U, Hoyo Polina from Sporting CP for 17 million. And their key player, Alexander Mitrovic, like Jared mentioned, and I don't want to repeat everything Jared said. I know he had Fulham at 19. And I think this is the year. I think Fulham, one, was the number 1 team in the Championship League. So they were the best team coming up. And 2, they have experience in the Prem. Unlike Nottingham Forest, like, what was the stat? 19. It was a long time ago. Nottingham Forest made the Prem. I don't know.
Yeah, it was a while ago.
It was before we were born. We were both. Jared was born in 2000, born in 2001. So it was before the 2000s since the last time they made the Prem. So that example, and I think AFC Bournemouth is just not the team. So I think Fulham is the one championship team that stays. I don't know. There's just something about Fulham. I feel bad for their fans because like it must be tough going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. Like it just must drive them nuts.
How many goals do you think Mitrovic could put up this year in the Prem?
I don't have his stats in front of me. What did he put up last year?
He put up 43. He set a record in the Championship League.
And championship, okay, 40.
But the year before when they were in the Prem, he put up 3 goals.
Okay,
He never has
We'll split.
performed in the Prem.
That's obviously that's why I
That's
wrote.
like the big question.
I got that in bold. Key player Alexander Mitrovic.
Yeah.
Exactly. I think maybe let's go 13.
Okay.
Let's go 13. Let's go 13 goals. Obviously, I don't think he's gonna score 43 in the Prem. Well, that would be something. And
No
probably
chance.
some good odds on him to win. You probably get some favorable odds if you want to bet him to become the Golden Boot in the Prem. I don't know if he's gonna win it, but it's 13 or 14. 3, they're back down. Like I think obviously like 43-3. Where then who's replicating that goal and scoring? Like who's making up for those 40 goals?
Exactly. Yeah.
So, and that's fault them in the past. I think he doesn't get 43 and he doesn't get 30, like 13, 14, 15. And I think he squeaks by. But like Jared, he has 25 goals. Like he pops.
That's amazing.
Fulham's a top 15 team. So he's a huge factor, but I still have him at 17. And I think Fulham squeaks by. Jared, at 16, who do you have staying? Not staying in the Prem, but who do you got at 16?
So at 16, I have the same team who landed at 16 last year, and that's Everton. I just like Leeds. I mean, no, like Southampton. I just don't really. They don't have many like pure scores. They have Calvert-Lewin. I mean, he was hurt a lot last year, so I'll give him the nod on that. But he only put up 5 goals. I think he probably only played like, I don't know, around 20 games. Maybe that's a little too high. He's 24. He's young. He's good. But besides him, I'm not liking the whole roster itself. I mean, Jordan Pickford at goals is good. And like they lost Richarlison to Tottenham, which is a huge loss in my opinion. That's someone who can pair with Calvert-Lewin and score those goals. And I'm looking at their transfers. They got James Tarkowski from Burnley, and Jean-Philippe Gabon and defensive mid. They got him back. It was the end of his loan. But like, it's not like they were spending money this year, this offseason. And, I don't think they really improved. Just, if anything, they got maybe worse. But they'll have Calvert-Lewin for like the whole year.
It's not off season for soccer. It's the summer transfer.
Summer transfer, my bad.
I'm busting your chops. Yeah, Everton's a fine pick at 16. I have him coming up in a couple of picks. Brentford for me is at 16. They finished 13th last year. And like we talked off air, JR. What was it, like 11 through 17? It's like a crapshoot. Like they're separated by 6 or 7 points. So it's really like, honestly, I think you could flip a freaking coin for every team and then you would be fine. It's the same, you know what I mean? Like it's that competitive, which is a good thing. But they lose Christian Eriksen, who's one of their best players to Man U. I know he was injured for some of the year, but he's a veteran presence. They still have Ivan Toney. He's their best overall player. They brought in Aaron Hickey from Bologna. They also brought in Keane Lewis-Potter from Hull City. But losing Christian Eriksen, not being consistent enough last year, them not showing enough for me last year. I know they finished 13th, but it was a weird 13. Like they struggled towards the end of the year. They were last 5 games. They were 2 losses, 2 wins, and a tie, so they were okay. But they finished 13 and 18 with 7 draws. So, and their goal differential was -8. So they had a worse goal differential than Aston Villa, who finished behind them. I just think, one, they lose Christian Eriksen, who's one of their best scorers and who's proven that he can score. Man U obviously wanted him and prioritized him because they went after him. And I think Ivan Toney, it's a lot of pressure on Ivan Toney because he's a flashy player. I loved watching him last year. Every time like he takes his shirt off, he does all that fun soccer stuff, and he's something. But they finished 13th. They're back to 16th, in my opinion. They're just nothing pops when I look at Brentford's roster. There's nothing like that like is crazy. Look, they could finish 13th or 14th, but it's not a huge step down from 16. Like there's not a huge difference, in my opinion. So Brentford at 16, I just think that's 16 for them. I think they brought in Keane Lewis-Potter. He could be their striker. He's one of their best scorers, and he kind of flies right into the lineup. Aaron Hickey flies right into the lineup on the defensive side of the ball. But that's 2 newcomers that are going to play legit minutes in the Prem. So I think it's a little bit of a transition period for them, and I just don't think they're talented enough from top to bottom to contend in the Prem. So I got 16th. I got Brentford. Jer, 15th. Who do you got?
I got our rivals, Nottingham Forest.
Oh,
I have them going.
that's a bold pick.
I have them. It is bold. I'm very high on Nottingham. I think they could make a not a run, but they could really prove everyone wrong.
Yeah.
I think they got a bunch of new players. They spent some money this summer transfer period.
Nice, you got it.
And I think they're really trying to stay in this Premier League. I love Brennan Johnson. I think he was the guy who was killing us when me and Pete watched our first Leicester game.
Oh yeah,
he was the one scoring the goal. He put up 16 goals, 10 assists. He's only 20 years old. I get that's the Championship League. He's got a lot to prove if he wants to stay in the Prem. But I think he's got great talent.
Okay.
And then you look at who they're bringing in. They got Omar Richards from Bayern Munich, left back. I'm high on this guy. I think this guy's going to be really good. He's only 23, and he obviously played for Bayern. And then Dean Henderson, the goalkeeper from Man U. Yeah, I mean, he's young. He's I think 25. I think they just lost their starter Bryce Samba, so I think this is a good replacement for that. And then they really emphasize the defense. They got Nico Williams from Liverpool who played for Fulham last year. They got Musa Niakate and Julian Biancone. So they really emphasizing that defense. And like you mentioned, Jesse Lingard, he wasn't great at Man U, to be honest.
But he's a name. He's a name.
Yeah, he's a name, and he was at Man U. I mean, I think he could maybe, not restart his career, but kind of like rebrand his name at Nottingham. I do like this team a lot. I think they have the potential. They're young. They have veterans though. So there's like a good, mix. They have the chance to like surprise everyone this year. I think they might do it. The fans are hungry for it. I think they could maybe, make a run for, 15th.
Yeah. I had them obviously not making it or finishing at 18 or no, what did I have finished? 18?
Yeah, 18.
I went back to my notes. At 15 for me, I got Everton. They were one like dancing with the chance of relegation last year. They finished 16th, only 4 points ahead of Burnley, who got relegated, only 1 point ahead of Leeds. They ended the year 2 losses, 2 wins, and a draw. So they weren't anything special with a goal differential of negative 23. Burnley had a better goal differential than Everton last year. So that is something to say. They lose Richarlison to Tottenham. When I write down that your most important or your key player, like your best player, like is your goalie, that doesn't sound great for me. Like Everton's a big name on all that stuff. I know you mentioned Calvert-Lewin, but he was injured last year. Ali, he was where did he come from? I knew not PSG. He was a big signing. Are you doing a little Google search for me?
Ali.
Yeah, Alli.
I have no clue.
Never mind. It doesn't matter what I'm saying. But he's obviously got a factor. And why do I can't figure this guy? Whatever. Everton. Dele Ali. He showed up from, and I know I'm going off a thing. He was from Tottenham for 2015 to 2022. So he's a legit player, and he's in the midfield. Attacking midfield. So midfield. And I think losing Richarlison to Tottenham, and when I watched him play, like he pissed me the hell off. Like he was so annoying to play against. Tottenham signed him for 50 mil. Obviously that's going to factor in. And like it wasn't like Everton was anything special last year, and then they lose their best player, right? So they were very bad last year, in the sense, and then they lose their best player. I think it's kind of simple. I don't see Everton being anything special this year. So I got Everton finishing at 15th. Look, they're cool. They're obviously a prominent club. It's better than their 8. What did they finish at? 16th? No, it's not really that much better. Their 16th finish last year, but they should be improved a tad maybe. But like Richarlison losing them just doesn't really move the needle for them, for me or for them, in my opinion. So at 15, I got Everton. Jared, what do you got at 14?
Yeah, so at 14, I got Brentford. And I kind of agree on basically like everything you said.
Yeah.
I'm big on I like Keane Lewis Potter a lot. I think he has a lot of potential. He scored 12 goals for Hull City. He's only 20 years old, so maybe he doesn't perform this year, but he still has room to grow. And then I like Aaron Hickey from Bologna. He's 20 years old as well, so they're starting to go young in their transfers. Then they got a guy like Ben Mee who brings experience. He's 31. He and then, like you said, they lost Christian Eriksen, which is a huge loss for a club like Brentford. But I think the bringing in of King Lewis Potter, helps with that. Kind of like puts a band-aid over for a little bit. And Ivan Toney, hopefully he has a big year this year. They're going to need him to score a lot of goals if they want to stay competitive. But like you said, I don't think they got much better, but I don't think they got a ton worse. I mean, they made up for the Christian Eriksen loss, in my opinion. So yeah, they finished 13th last year. I got them 14th this year.
Yeah, we kind of almost a little bit agree. I got to come obviously a couple spots back at 16. For me at 14, where the first time I think we really, really disagree. Maybe the Nottingham Forest one. I got Southampton at 14th. Look, I know, like you said, they started great last year, and then they ended the last 5 games with 4 losses and a draw. But they finished with 40 points. They finished a little better. We may be thinking about them a little differently. They could be maybe 12th, 11th, and you might have a different persona about them. They still have James Ward-Prowse in the midfield. He's their best player. I'm gonna get his name wrong. Ilanusu. He starts with an E. I just butchered the heck out of his name. He's in the attacking midfield. He's a very key player. He's very talented. They brought in Gavin Bazuni from Man City. They also brought in Romeo Lavia from Man City. Both obviously weren't key pieces of Man City, but Man City obviously produces a ton of talent. They just don't have enough guys that can get into the rotation because there's too many guys that are just too talented. I like Southampton last year. They started on fire last year. And I think that's more of the Southampton that we'll see this year. Maybe not as good, but I don't think they'll be as bad as the end of the year last year. I think it's going to be a combination of a middle of the both of hot start, bad end of the year. A combination of that finishes them at 14th. I really like James Ward-Prowse. And I feel like the one thing, if you're Southampton, you're probably afraid you're going to lose him because, like, obviously a lot of teams covered him. He's super talented. He's still on the younger side. And I think Adams in the striker and attacking, and I think Southampton's can be very good this year. I think they're going to be a solid team. And I think how they started last year maybe shows a little more who they really are than how they ended. But obviously the concern with the last 5 games can't really make you feel super good about Southampton. That's why I don't have them higher than 14. So at 14, I got Southampton finishing just in the top 15. Jared, who do you got at 13?
So at 13, I have a team that a lot of people are high on this year. That's Crystal Palace. They finished at 12th last year. And, they've been spending money this offseason. They have players like Wilfred Zaha, who he's got 14 goals last year. And they brought in Cheik Decor, defensive midi from Lens, the League One team, League One. He's 22. He's got a high potential. I believe they also brought in Chris Richards from Bayern. And they've been spending money this offseason. To me, they lost a key piece, Conor Gallagher. He was on loan from Chelsea, I believe. I think Chelsea transferred him. And they lost Jaroslaw Jacques. But I think Conor Gallagher is a big loss for them. I mean, I didn't see anyone that jumped off the board for me that they, received. And I do know a lot of people are high on them. I just don't see them going, higher than 12th or 13th. I put them at 13th. They're not really like jumping off the board for me.
Yeah, I got them in a couple spots or two. But at 13 for me, and I think if they finish 13th, with the amount of talent, in my opinion, that they have, will be a disappointment. That's Aston Villa at 13. I think, one, they underperformed last year. They finished 14th with a -2 goal differential and only 45 points. But this team has some talented players. They bring in Diego Carlos from Sevilla for 26 million. They have Philip Coutinho, who was really good at Barcelona, and they had him last year. They also have Ali Watkins. They have Ramsey in the midfield, Mings and the defense. He's a big defender. This team should be way better, but they have underperformed countless times. They actually underperform. This team is much talented. Like, you're talking about Mings, you're talking about Diego Carlos, Ramsey, Ali Watkins, Philip Coutinho. This team should be borderline a top 10 team, and they just haven't put it all together. And once again, I don't think they put it all together. I think there's too much competition, one, in front of them, and there's nothing that has shown me from watching them and what they finished last year. And that they can come together. And look, I think if Aston Villa finishes 13th, and that's where I have them finishing, will be a major disappointment because of the fact of all the guys that is like 4 or 5 or 6 guys. You look at the starting lineup, you're like, damn, these are very talented players. This team should be better than 13th. Once again, I don't think it all comes together. I do like Philip Coutinho. I think he's very good. I like Ali Watkins in the attack. Mings is a big defender, and he's tough to go against, obviously, on crosses and all that fun stuff. But I think Aston Villa at 13th, one disappointment year, and I think this could be a disappointing year for Aston Villa. So I get them finishing at 13 in the Prem. Jared, what do you got at 12?
Yeah, so at 12, I have the Wolverhampton Wanderers.
Nice.
I think this is just like a solid team. They're not, flashy. They're not. I don't see them as a team that's potential top 6 in the league, but I also don't see them as a team that's gonna, flunder and go bottom pack. I think 12 is a perfect spot for them. Between 12 and 10, they finished 10th last year. They got players like Ruben Neves, Raul Jimenez.
Yes.
And they're keeping the Hee-chan Wong, who played on loan last year he's from Leipzig. He played well. He scored 5 goals for them. He's 26. And they're bringing in Nathan Collins. I feel like Burnley's just dishing out players. Every team I feel like got a player from Burnley.
Oh yeah, they're rebooted. Rebooted.
So Nathan Collins, he's 21, center back, 21 years old. I think he's good. And they also got Adam Traore, a right winger from Barcelona. I mean, he was playing at Barcelona. He's back from loan. I think this is like a solid team. I don't see them. They're not very deep, and I don't think they solved that problem this year. So, hopefully no injuries happen. But I think this is like a solid team. They're not easy to play in the Prem, and they're not an easy win. If you get a tie, that's good. I feel like they're just like a solid core team, and I think 12th, fits them.
To not be repetitive and all that stuff, I have Crystal Palace at 12, who you had at 13. I don't want to go too much, but I do really like Wilfred Zaha in the attack. Like, he's my key player, and I think Crystal Palace is a very solid team. They were very good last year. They were I think, better than people thought than they were supposed to.
Yeah, definitely.
Crystal Palace, they finished 12th last year. I got them finishing 12th again. They had a +4 goal differential, and they were at 48 points, only 4 points behind Leicester in 8th place. So they were knocking the doorsteps of top 10. I think they finished 12th again. I don't want to just go crazy on the repetitive. So I got Crystal Palace at 12, just for the time's sake, because we don't make sure you guys enjoy the episode. But we also, I don't want to repeat stuff. So Jared, what do you got at 11?
So at 11, I have Brighton, who finished the season 9th last year.
Hey, you read my stats. That's what I got. Brighton at 11 as well.
You got them too? Yeah. So I feel like 11th is just a great spot to put them.
Yeah.
I mean, they lost. Big loss was Yves Bissouma, center mid, who went to Tottenham. I high on that guy, but we'll get to that later. And they brought in a guy like Julio and Cisco, who could score goals. He had 11 goals for Libertad, and he's only 18 years old, or 19 now maybe. So he's really young. They didn't, no one jumped off the charts. I don't know about you, Pete, but that they brought in.
No, like you said, like Julio and Cisco, I wrote down. I got Simon and Jagura from Nordzeland. That's what I got at 6.9 million. Look, they're a solid team. They finished 9th. That might be a little high for them last year. Maybe 9th. I think that might have been a tad.
Could have been a little fluke.
Yeah, so I got them at 11. I don't really see them. Look, they also had a -2 goal differential. Yeah. So the 9 could be a little premature, and they also finished the year very strong. They had 3 wins and 2 draws at the end of the year, so they benefited from a good end of the year. Maybe where some teams are not fully competing at that point. I think Brighton at 11 is a fair point, and I'm gonna agree with you. I don't think there's anything that pops off the board where we see them as a top 10 team, but nothing pops not off the board where we see them as a below 15. They're a solid, well put together team. They didn't add anybody crazy. They did lose Yves Bissouma to Tottenham, so that could, I think, maybe factors into the drop from 9 to 11. And that point differential, -2, wasn't great. So you could see a complete drop off there. So you know what? We'll stick with me for 10. So I got 10. I got the Wolverhampton Wanderers. I got the Wolves, and they finished last year at 10, but they had a -5 goal differential. So that could be a little premature, but I like them at 10. They brought in Nathan Collins from Burnley. Like you said, Burnley's just shipping people out. One, makes sense. Nobody wants to play in the championship. Like, obviously, if you have a chance to play in the Prem, you're going to want to play in the Prem. But, like, they're a talented team. Like, Ruben Neves is my key player. Latino, Raul Neto, and Jimenez in the attack. Like, this team is solid. They're a very good team, and they've given teams trouble. Like, they're not a cakewalk, but they're not going to dominate teams. Like, they're literally 10 is the middle of the pack. They're a middle of the pack team. They have a couple good players like Ruben Neves and Neto, Jimenez that kind of pop off the board, in my opinion. I think and they also didn't lose anybody like crazy. Like they lost a couple guys in the free market, but they also lost Ruben Wenger to Sporting CP for 8.5 million. But nothing like Everton losing Richarlison or Calvin Phillips leaving Leeds, all that fun stuff. Nothing like that. They're the same exact team with the addition of Nathan Collins. I think they sit at 10. I really like Ruben Neves in the midfield. I think he solidifies that midfield for them. And they do have a good attack with Neto and Jimenez. So I think Wolves, once again, will give people trouble. They'll be a very competitive team. Obviously, there won't be a cakewalk. And you know what? They could totally finish 8th or 9th. Like, I don't see that's not a crazy alternative for them.
Oh, yeah, I definitely agree with that.
But I think the Wolves at 10, they're a very solid, well put together team. And I think they're going to be a 10. Jared, what do you got at 10?
So at 10, this is, I make it a little,
fun.
So I feel like for 10 through like 8, 10 through 8, I'd say, or, I feel like you could flip or flop. This is like a weird area to start picking. But, I'm going West Ham here. They finished,
I like that
they
a lot.
finished last season at 7. I'm not saying they got worse this year. But I'm also not saying they didn't really make moves that improved the club a bunch. And I feel like the teams that I have above, made moves that kind of put them over the edge, and that's why I chose them. West Ham's a good team. I have to say that Declan Rice, really high potential. He's really good.
But he's also been talked about leaving and like potentially to leave. So you have that hanging over them as well.
You got that hanging. Who knows in January? Then you got Michael Antonio, good player. He's 31 though. I don't see him. He had 12 goals and 10 assists this year. I don't see him repeating that. And then Jared Bowen, 12 goals and 10 assists also. He's younger. I think like that's where he takes the role from Antonio. But they got Naif Ogud, center back from Rennes. And Flynn Downs, who's okay. He's 23. He scored 1 goal last year for Swansea. Like just nothing jumps off the board for me here. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they got all the way to 8th again. Not all the way, but 8th this year. But I have them at 10th. I like the teams I have over them.
Yeah, so West Ham finished 7th last year, so they qualified for the Europa Conference League for this year. You have them at 10. I got them at 9. So we're really kind of agreeing. We see a little bit of a drop off for West Ham. Like I like Jared Bowen. I think he's a very good midfielder. Declan Rice is their best player, and it's not close. But there's always been talk about Declan Rice, obviously maybe moving up to, I don't know, like the Man City, Man U, all those type of teams, that potential, and it's going to linger over them. They did bring in Gianluca Scamacca from Sassuolo for $35 million euros, and that could be an addition. But I think the competitiveness at the top of when you get to Wolves and above, I think the competitiveness in the Prem is unreal.
I agree.
I see a tad drop off just because it's the same roster, but there's not a lot of additions to the roster, like you said. So at 9, I got West Ham. I think they're a very solid team. The biggest thing is Declan Rice, especially if Declan Rice leaves in the winter transfer window, because that could be a total option for Declan Rice. Then that team takes a legit hit. So West Ham's going to be good once again, but I got him finish at 9. You got him finish at 10. Jared, who do you got at 9?
So 9, I got Newcastle. They finished 11th last year. And one of the signings I really love is Sven Botman, the defender from Lille. They got him for like around 41 mil. I might be wrong. But he's going to be really good. He's only
32 million.
32. He's only 22 years old. I like this guy a lot. I think they got a lot of good, additions. They spent money this year. I see them taking the step over West Ham, and so I got them at 9.
I got Newcastle at 8.
8. Okay.
So Jared has Newcastle 9. I got West Ham at 9. I had 8. I got Newcastle. Like they brought in, like you said, Botman from Lille. They also brought in Nick Pope from Burnley.
Nick Pope. Yeah. Yeah.
They have Trippier in the defense. They have Saint Maximum, who's a fascinating player to watch. He's an exciting player to watch. And they had such a good second half because they brought so many players in that winter window, but they were just too far back to start the year. They were pushing relegation at a point of the year, but they skyrocketed in the second half. Jared, they finished 11th with a negative 18 goal differential. That shows you how bad they were.
Yeah.
Or the winter window.
I feel like their defense was
their additions. So I think we also see more of the second window. I think a lot of people are hype on Newcastle. I got Newcastle today. I think they're a fascinating team. They're super expensive now.
Yeah.
This team's expensive. So this team's expected to perform. So at 8, they just missed the Europa Conference League. Jared, who do you got at 8?
So at 8, I got a team that you were not huge on. Well, you were not big on them, but Aston Villa. I mean, you said like you were right. If they come at whatever you said they were, I think you
I
said
think at 13.
30. But you even said if they come at 13, it's very like just
disappointing. It's disappointing.
Yeah.
The roster's too good to finish 13th.
Yeah. So, I mean, they finished last year at 14. I think they take a big jump this year. Like you said, you mentioned Diego Carlos from Sevilla, the center back, Philip Coutinho, who they I think officially signed, I think last transfer window. And then I'm big on Boubacar Kamara, the defensive mid. They got him. I think he's 23. I think he could really, become something at Aston Villa. And then I'm big on Jacob Ramsey. I remember we were watching the game one time. You were like, "Who the hell is that guy?" Like, he's good. And that was Jacob Ramsey. We were watching, I think, an Aston Villa game. He's 20 years old. Hopefully, he takes the next step this year. But I think they got good additions this year. They only lost like Matt Target. Well, I'm not really huge on, to be honest. But they got good additions this year. They had some young players who hopefully could take that next step and blend it all together. I think they could have a really good year this year. I mean, they might, underperform and fall to 13th. I wouldn't be 100% surprised, but I have high hopes for them this year. I think I got them at 8.
So Jared's Aston Villa at 8, and I have Newcastle at 8, both missing the Europa Conference League. So these are the 7 teams that are going to qualify for European football the following season. I got at 7. I got, man, and we'll try to be fast here. We don't want to keep dragging this on for you guys, and appreciate everyone that's tuning in. Drop a comment, claim your team. Who do you got winning the Prem and all that fun stuff? At 7, I got Man U.
I have the same thing.
You got Man U.
Yeah.
Dropping from 6 to 7. One, they bring in a whole new coach, right? Eric Ten Hag. I think I got the name right. That's a whole new system, right? You have the huge thing with Ronaldo.
Yeah.
Playing. That's a huge speculation over them. They lose Paul Pogba. They lose Jesse Lingard. Dean Henderson. Solid. Yeah, Andres Pereira to Fulham. They bring in Luciano Martinez from Ajax for $46 million. That's where their coach just came from. So that's a huge addition. They also bring Christian Eriksen from Brentford. This is a rebuild in Man U right now. It also depends what happens with Cristiano Ronaldo. And I also don't trust Harry Maguire in the defense. Like, this roster is not as good as it used to be. And like Marcus Rashford has been a tad overrated this past year. So is Jadon Sancho. They've been a tad overrated. I got Man U at 7. Jared, quick thoughts why you think Man U at 7? And they would qualify for the Europa Conference League.
Yeah, like you said, who knows what's going to happen with Ronaldo this year? And let's take Ronaldo out of the equation. Now that's 18 goals off the board for you. Someone's got to step up and take care of that 18 that's off the board. And I have a feeling he'll probably will play, maybe.
Yeah, probably.
I think Man U's always going to be, ranked a little higher for some people because they're Man U. Mm-hmm. But if you really break down this roster, this is not like a Man City. This is
a rebuild.
It's not as great as you would think. It's a rebuild, yeah. And just because they're named Man U doesn't mean they should be automatically in the top 5 or so. Agreed. So yeah, I agree with you at 7. Last season they were 6. I think they got worse this year. So yeah, I totally agree with you there.
Okay, Jared, for time constraints, and we don't want to obviously just keep going for it. So who do you have the two teams who finishing 5 and 6? So 7 obviously qualifies for Europa Conference League. Who do you have the two teams qualifying for Europa League? So who are the two teams at 5 and 6? And give me one why you like one team at 5 and 6. So who are the two teams at 5 and 6 you got qualifying for the Europa League?
I got Leicester City at 6.
Okay,
And then I got Arsenal at 5.
And I agree.
Yeah, I'm big on Leicester this year. I mean, obviously, you can see, but they're not in any European football this year. They don't really have any players playing internationally. That means all their players can be rested and focused on the Premier League. And there's questions with Yuri Tielemans. I mean, he's bound to go. Who knows when?
Yeah.
Now with Schmeichel's not going to be here anymore once we find a replacement. So I mean, there are questions with the roster in that way, but Jamie Vardy is going to score 10 plus goals. It's automatically. James Maddison, 24, really well. You love him.
I love it.
We just got a good young core. Harvey Barnes and Wesley Fofana. Fofana, I think, is one of the best defenders in the Prem, and I'll stand by that. So yeah, I think Leicester at 6, and then Arsenal got obviously Gabriel Jesus, big signing. I don't think he's going to be everything that everyone hopes so. But yeah, what do you think about Arsenal or Leicester?
Yeah, like quickly for Leicester, like I love their starting lineup. I love Ricardo Pereira, Fofana. I'm a huge, like you said, James Maddison. I love Harvey Barnes. I think he's so underrated. I think he's so underrated. The one thing might keep Leicester from maybe not moving or maybe finishing 7th, 8th, or 9th is the lack of depth on their roster. Yeah. There's a couple key positions defensively.
Oh, and the corner kicks.
Yeah, the corner kicks. If we give up, don't even get me started with that. And look, and the biggest thing right now is the goalkeeping situation. We're a week and a half outside of the season. We don't have our goalkeeper. Most likely, it's all reports. Obviously, with the Schmeichel thing, like it's not official. Like you never know. It could always change. We never. Obviously, stuff will change. But at this point, that's up in the air. The depth at the center back position is kind of sketchy. The depth at the midfield position is very sketchy. The Tielemans situation is kind of looming large. So Leicester at 6 would be, I think we would both sign up right now. If Leicester,
I'd be happy with it. I could see them going further though. That's just me as a fan saying it.
But if somebody told me, say Peter, Leicester at 6, I'd be like, okay, that's that's Europa League next year, and that's a step up for me. And you're back in European football. You keep going. 5 with Arsenal. I like Gabriel Jesus. Kieran Tierney's he's very good. William Saliba, Martin Odegaard, they're very good. They're just not good enough to get into the Champions League once again. I think Gabriel Jesus will put them closer, but he doesn't put them over the top. I think Arsenal.
I think what puts him over the top, depending on Saka's year. I mean, he had 11 goals and 7 assists this year. He's 20 years old. Yes. If he could take that next step to star level, I think they have a good shot. But
I completely agree. So JR, let's try to make this interesting. So we got 4, 3, 2, and 1. We got the 14, and we all have the same 4 teams. We don't know what order. Chelsea, Liverpool, Man City, Tottenham. So whatever order you have, Jared, give me 4, 3, 2, and 1, and then explain your winner.
All right. So at 4, I have Chelsea. 3, Liverpool. 2, Tottenham, which could be a surprise. Yeah. And then 1, Man City.
You're so boring.
No, I mean, Man City, you're pairing up Erling Haaland with Kevin De Bruyne. I think that's set for an insane duo. You also add Calvin Phillips. I mean, you lost Raheem Sterling, you lost Gabriel Jesus and Zinchenko. But I mean, look at the roster. I mean, they make up for that with one signing in Erling Haaland,
And Calvin Phillips, too.
And Calvin Phillips. But, Erling Haaland scored 22 goals in, I think, like 24 games at 22 years old. I mean, and 8 assists. I mean, that guy's a monster. I want to say for Tottenham, I think Richarlison, Son, and Harry Kane I was just boasting about Haaland, but I think those 3 might be the best attack in the Prem, depending if they might take Richarlison off the bench. But if those 3 are on the field at the same time, I think that's the best attack in the Prem. That's why I'm really high on Tottenham this year. Then I'm high on Yves Bissouma, the center defense mid from Brighton. I think this kid's going to be really good. And I think Tottenham got a really good young piece out of him for their defense. So I think Tottenham's going to be really scary this year.
I like Tottenham a lot. So my 4, 3, and 2, and I got Tottenham at 4. So I'm finishing backing in 4. I like Richarlison. I think it's a good addition. I think the 3 teams ahead of them are better. I got Liverpool at 3. So we both agree with Liverpool at 3. I have Chelsea at 2, and then I'm boring as well.
Oh, okay. I thought you were gonna pull something.
No, I'm boring as well. I got Man City at 1. I mean, I'll quickly on Chelsea because I don't like. Look, Man City, bring in Holland. You're bringing Calvin Phillips. Holland's one of the best attackers in the world, and he's 2021. He's incredible. Man City didn't even need him. That's how good Man City is.
That's
and then
true.
they add him. They lose Raheem Sterling. They lose Gabriel Jesus. I would rather lose Raheem Sterling and Gabriel Jesus are very good players and get Calvin Phillips and Holland.
Yeah, especially pairing out with De Bruyne. I think.
Yeah, like this, they're incredible. If they don't win the Prem, it's a disappointment. Liverpool at 3, I think people will be very pissed off if you're a Liverpool fan.
Oh yeah.
Chelsea at 2, I think the Raheem Sterling signing is very intriguing for Chelsea. I think Romelu Lukaku just didn't fit, and I think that was just lingering large the whole year, and they finished 3rd in the Prem last year for Chelsea. I think not because Lukaku's a bad player, he just didn't fit. Like it just wasn't a match made in heaven. They get Lukaku out. They still have Jorginho. They still have Conte, Christian Pulisic, Kai Havertz. This team is very Mason Mount. They did Rodrigo. They lost Rodrigo to Rodrigo to Real Madrid. I completely butchered his name.
And
they have a great goalie in Mendy. I like Chelsea at 2 to take a step up, and I think Chelsea at 2, but Man City at 1. So I got Tottenham at 4. I got Liverpool at 3. I got Chelsea at 2.
What do you think of the
Man City winning the Prem again?
What do you think of the Darwin Nunez for Liverpool? Quickly,
that's something. I think Darwin gives them another attack. Like, but we both. I think
that was a great makeup for the Sadio Mane loss. I mean,
that also lost Sadio Mane.
3 goals.
And obviously, they missed that on Holland, and
yeah.
And I don't know how close they were, but obviously they were probably up there.
But I think Darwin Nunez is just damn good.
It was a very good signing, and finishing 3rd on the Prem is nothing to lose your mind about. So yeah, Tottenham at 4, Liverpool at 3, Chelsea at 2, and Man City at 1. Jared, repeat your top 4 for all our viewers and listeners.
Yeah. So I got Chelsea at 4, Liverpool at 3. Me and Pete both agree on that. I'm high on Tottenham this year. I got him at 2, and then Man City with the Holland signing and pairing him with Kevin De Bruyne. I think they're going to win the Prem at number 1.
Guys, I hope you guys all enjoyed the episode. This will come out sometime. You'll see this very soon, obviously, right before the Prem. Follow us always on social media, but comment down below who you guys got winning the Prem, or comment down below who's your team. Do whatever you want. I don't care. I love your comments. We'll appreciate it. We'll respond to all the comments. I know it was a little bit of a long episode, but appreciate you guys either listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or watching this on YouTube. Road to 2K continues. But Jared, down in the description, where can everyone follow us on social media, dude?
Follow us on.
Let's go. Nice going, dude. Nice going. Oh my God, guys, you can't have nice things around here. You mute your mic.
So please follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Talking Sports PD. And please, if you're watching this, subscribe. Hope you like the soccer. We'll be posting more soccer or football, depending. I don't want to get hated for that one. But we'll be posting more content of football or soccer. I don't in the coming months. And of course, go Foxes.
Yeah, guys, go Foxes. Spotify and Apple Podcasts as always will also be in the description. I think I forgot to actually add Spotify. No, I think I added Spotify in the last description. So I did add Spotify. Like Jared said, Twitter, Instagram, all the fun social media stuff. Stay tuned. Make sure you subscribe to the channel so every time we post a video, you guys know when it comes out. Put a notification on, put the bell on so you get an alert. Subscribe to the Apple Podcasts and Spotify so you also know when it comes out. But guys, hopefully you guys enjoyed the Prem. Hopefully you guys enjoy this season. We'll be posting NFL content throughout the summer. Look for all our NFL player rankings throughout the month of August leading up to the season. College football is right around the corner, and then we got NBA and MLB playoffs. So this is going to be a jam-packed couple of months with content. So appreciate everyone that's subscribing. Let's get to 2K, guys. But once again, this was the Talking Sports podcast hosted by Peter DiBiasi and John Rocco Trumpbour. This was our Premier League preview, and hopefully you guys enjoyed this. Until next time, thank you.